I met OJ in 1977 while I was a waitress at a club in Beverly Hills. I was 18, up from Orange County, and just out of high school. OJ was 30, playing football for the Buffalo Bills, and still married. He was crazy for me. I was crazy for him. After his divorce from Marguerite, I moved into his home on Rockingham Drive, and we were always doing something. Parties, trips, you name it. But just because I was living with him didn't mean I was the only woman in his life. After our wedding and the birth of our children, Sydney and Justin, I had thought that would change. But I was wrong. OJ continued screwing around. Finally, I had had enough, and in 1992, we divorced. I began seeing other people, and OJ, he continued seeing other people. In 1994, we made an effort to renew our relationship, but the spark wasn't there anymore. Too much had passed. On June 9th, I put my townhouse on Bundy up for lease and prepared to move out to Malibu. As you know, that never happened. On June 12th, I and Ron Goldman were murdered at my home while my children slept in their beds. The LAPD quickly focused on my ex-husband as the sole suspect. After his arrest, there was a grand jury proceeding, followed by a preliminary hearing. In January 1995, the trial begins. Representing the people are Marcia Clark and Chris Darden. And defending are the members of the so-called Dream Team. Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, and F. Lee Bailey. Of course, my former husband. And presiding, Judge Lancito.
We are going to begin with the opening statements. Let me note that any statements made to you by the attorneys during the course of their statements are not evidence, and they should not be considered as such. It's to give you a roadmap, so to speak, as to how to evaluate the evidence. They need to explain to you the case they intend to present. Are both sides ready to go forward? Cochran?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Clark?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
Do the people wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
You may proceed. Mr. Darden?
Yes, sir.
We are here today to settle a question that has been in the minds of people throughout this country for the last 7 months. Did Orenthal James Simpson really kill Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman? The evidence will show that the answer to the question is yes. What we've been seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is a public face, a public persona, the face of the athlete, the face of the actor. We also have a private face, a private side. The evidence will show that the face you see and the man you will see is the face of a wife beater, a batterer, a controller. Orenthal James Simpson was obsessed with Nicole Brown. He couldn't stand to lose her. And so he murdered her. And so, as you hear the evidence in this case, it will become clear that in his mind, she belonged to him. If he couldn't have her, nobody could. Thank you.
Ms. Clark?
Thank you, Your Honor. The evidence will show that on the night of June 12th, the defendant had an hour and 10 minutes of time in which his whereabouts are unaccounted for. And we will show that it was during this time that the murders were committed. The facts will also show that a trail of blood led from the victims to the defendant. These facts, that we find blood where there should be no blood, in the defendant's car, in his house, in the driveway, and even on the socks at the foot of his bed. That trail of blood leading from Bundy through his own Ford Bronco and into his house on Rockingham is devastating proof of his guilt. And the results of the analysis of that blood will confirm what the rest of the evidence will show. That after a violent relationship where the defendant beat her, humiliated her, and controlled her, after he took her freedom, her youth, her self-respect, just as she was trying to break free, Orenthal James Simpson took her very life in what amounted to his final and his ultimate act of control. And in that final and terrible act, Ronald Goldman, an innocent bystander, was viciously and senselessly murdered. Remember that in voir dire, we asked you if you could use your common sense and your reason to objectively and to fairly evaluate this evidence as impartial judges of the facts. You all promised that you could and that you would. And we believe that you will. Thank you.
Mr. Cochran?
The evidence will show that in order to believe that O.J. Simpson committed these horrible murders, you would have to believe that he came back from back east where he was working to attend his daughter's recital. You will have to believe that while he was home getting ready for a trip to Chicago that had been long pre-planned, that while he was getting ready, he got hungry and decided that he wanted to get a Big Mac. You would have to believe that he was planning to kill his wife either before he got the Big Mac or after he got it. Then you would have to believe that he came home at 9:35 and said, gee, I think what I'll do is I'll go over and kill my wife. And then I think I'll change my shoes, my tennis shoes, and put on some hard-soled shoes before I go to the airport. And then you would have to believe that he did all of this by 10:15. Because in order to make their theory work, the prosecution has tied their case to the plaintive wail of a dog. In the course of our discussion, we will be talking about the evidence which was seized and collected at the scene at Bundy and also at Rockingham. We expect to be talking about the integrity of this evidence. That is, whether or not this evidence is capable of our belief. Whether or not it is evidence which is correct and appropriate. How is it collected? All the evidence picked up at Nicole Brown Simpson's condo. The evidence picked up at the Simpson home on Rockingham. The evidence from the Bronco, any blood, all went first through the LAPD, and then ultimately from the LAPD was sent out to the various labs, be it Cellmark, the FBI, or the Department of Justice. The LAPD remains the focal point in their collection of all the evidence that you're about to be required to look at. We expect that the facts will show that this evidence was contaminated, compromised, and ultimately corrupted. This case really boils down to who done it. It's not about domestic violence or whatever. It's about two people who were killed. And with all the evidence that that will be presented, we ask you to just keep an open mind. Thank you.
Of course, it doesn't go quite that smoothly. There are continual interruptions and sidebar discussions. One prosecutor becomes so angry that he has to be hospitalized after severe chest pains. But at last, trial gets going. The prosecution begins by calling witnesses for evidence of domestic violence. My sister, Denise Brown, is among them.
Miss Brown, was there ever an occasion when you and your sister went to the Red Onion in Santa Ana with the defendant?
Yes, we did.
Is there a bar in the Red Onion?
Yes.
And did you have something to drink?
We were all doing shots of tequila.
The defendant was doing shots of tequila.
Yes.
Was Nicole doing shots of tequila?
Yes.
Now, were there other persons in the bar?
Oh, God, it was packed.
And did some of the patrons recognize the defendant?
Yeah. He always gets recognized, wherever he goes.
Do people buy him anything while you were in the bar?
Sure, it happens all the time when we go out.
Mm-hmm. And did you see the defendant drink shots of tequila?
Yes.
Okay. Did anything unusual happen that night in the Red Onion?
Yes.
What was that, Miss Brown?
Well, we were all dancing and goofing around and being loud and just having a good time. And then at one point, OJ grabbed Nicole's crotch and said, "This is where babies come from, and this belongs to me." Nicole sort of wrote it off, but I thought it was really humiliating.
Your Honor, we're going to move to strike that. The witness is being non-responsive. This is calling for speculation. It's narrative.
Overruled.
Did the defendant appear mad or angry or upset when he grabbed your sister's crotch and made these statements in front of these strangers?
No, he wasn't angry. He wanted it to be known that that was his.
And during the time that these strangers were approaching him and shaking hands and things like that, did he appear to shy away from the attention at all?
No, not at all. He loves the attention. It feeds his ego.
Your Honor, may we approach the bench, please? Your Honor, we're going to ask that the court asks to strike this last part of and admonish the witness. This lady is hostile and it is unfair to our defendant.
Very well.
Judge, this is one of the acts you said we could go into.
This business about, he's got a big ego, he likes the attention. That's not part of this.
Look, Judge, Darden is a good lawyer and has spent a lot of time with her. These are not mistakes, Judge. We can't allow this.
Your Honor, I don't know what Mr. Cochran means by we can't allow. Is he wearing the robe in this courtroom today?
Mr. Darden, you're sort of second-guessing at this point. The issue here is the incidence of domestic violence. That's what I allowed this testimony for. Let's stick to that.
Yeah, she's volunteering a lot of stuff off the issue.
Can I make a suggestion, Your Honor?
Yes.
Are we adjourning on time today?
Boy, I sure hope so.
If you look over at the witness, I don't think she's going to make it through today, sir.
She's all right. She'll make it.
If she just answers the questions and somebody advises her to answer the questions.
What I mean, Your Honor, is she's very, very emotional.
I know.
I don't believe she's going to make it through this day.
Then she will have the weekend to stiffen her upper lip.
I would rather not end the weekend with her breaking down, crying. If Darden says he's going into an area that where she's going to fall apart, maybe he should find out what the area is.
I can't control these things. Look, we've still got some time. Let's proceed.
Is the court going to admonish her?
I'm just going to ask you to listen carefully to the question and answer the precise question.
Move to strike the answer?
Yes, I know. I'm going to instruct you to disregard the last answer regarding the defendant's ego. That question and answer are not relevant to the issue before the court at this time. And Ms. Brown, would you please listen carefully to the questions that the attorneys ask of you and just answer the precise question. This will go a lot easier.
Okay.
Are you okay, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Let me direct your attention to the La Cantina restaurant.
Okay.
Are you acquainted with someone by the name of Ed McCabe?
Yes, I was.
This is someone you've known for the last decade.
Yeah, I've known him for a while. I used to date him.
Okay. Do you recall an occasion when you and Ed McCabe and Nicole and the defendant went out to dinner?
Yes, I do.
And where did the four of you go after you left La Cantina?
We went to OJ's house. OJ and Nicole's house.
On Rockingham.
Yes.
Okay. Now, had you had something to drink at the restaurant?
Margaritas.
Okay. And did the defendant have something to drink?
Yeah, we all did.
All four of you.
Yes.
And what did you do